Welcome, everybody, to Terror Tuesday here on SecurityGuyNews.com with my co-host, Mr. Sean Ahrens from Chicago, Illinois. Sean, we have a terrorist story that I didn't hear about. I'm a news junkie. I listen and read a lot of things. I kind of missed this in August, and it's tied into the Oklahoma City bombing. Tell us about that. Domestic terrorism.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was talking with a client, and he's like, "Oh yeah, can you believe they almost, that someone was thinking about targeting the Oklahoma City again?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, this guy wanted to blow up a building in Oklahoma City." I'm like, "No, I had to go look at this." So apparently, this guy, 23 years old, Oklahoma City, very sensitive or familiar with Timothy McVeigh's attack, decided that it'd be a great idea to, park a 1,000-pound bomb next to a bank and blow it up. But the catch is, luckily, the Joint Terrorism Task Force was in front of this with the FBI and had basically identified him as a potential aggressor and set it up as for all matter of fact purposes, a sting, and was able to, basically stop the guy from doing what he was going to do by setting up a pseudo device and making it appear that he, had an intent of basically taking out the building and what have you. But how crazy is that? Two times, these radicalized, anti-government individuals that, we see with, significant potential impacts in the United States.
Well, I'm anti-government, by the way. Just so you know, I lean.
That's awesome.
I'm moderate. I think I'm moderate. People say, "Oh, you're conservative." I think I'm moderate. Push comes to shove, I'm going to be conservative, right? But let's talk about the politics involved in these sort of things and fake news, because I think this is where this comes from. So there's a misconception that if you are a local domestic terrorist, you are a right-wing nut job, right? And that may be the case. That's possible. Except if you look at the stats on domestic terrorism, most of the actual violence perpetrated are by people on the left. Now, the confusion is, especially with this Antifa and all that garbage going on right now, that people think fascists are to the right. No, fascists are to the left. Fascist is socialism with a gun, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think some of this is perpetrated and caused by this, I don't know, this fake news, this sentiment about the government. A guy like this is going to get fueled by propaganda and a bunch of baloney and believe things that aren't true. And I think this is a cause. I think we're seeing more and more of this. It used to be back in the day we would say, "Oh, he's individually responsible. We got nothing to do with that." I don't agree with that position anymore. I used to, but I don't. What do you think?
Clearly you're a Democrat, so that's interesting to hear.
I've never registered for either party, dude. Never been registered either party, just so you know.
Outside of, this whole, I don't even know how to pronounce it. What is it? Antifa? What?
Anti-fascist, yeah, right. Antifa, yeah.
Antifa. Get a new acronym first. But anyway, beyond that, with regards to right side, left side, I think the power in the story is really the communication and the infrastructure that we have built here that is arguably prevented a number of terrorist attacks, being international, domestic, or radicalized, occurring in the United States, just because good information sharing, it really showcases the types of programs that the United States has put in place, and certainly is a key reason for keeping us safe as compared to what's going on in Europe right now, where you just can't manage it all. They're implementing some of those programs now, so they're way behind the eight ball, and where we're way in front of it. And I think that's the really powerful message there. Beyond the fact that you would think this would have been in the news, but it just happened. It was reported on August 17th. But to your point specifically, about fake news and different things like that, there's certainly some credence behind that. Media has always been an opportunity to motivate people to action. And I would submit to you that the reason we have so many different types of workplace violence incidents is is directly associated to the media, because there's a bunch of these idiots sitting home with their hand in their pants, eating bonbons, going, "Well, that's a great idea."
Right.
So,
well, I mean, hats off to our law enforcement, right? Let's look at Israel. Israel stops about 80% of the bombs that go off in their country. Amazing number.
yep.
Now, ironically, social media helps perpetrate some of these things, and social media, communication, technology helps us stop it, right? Because they probably picked this guy up in a chat room. They probably picked him up in a tweet or a message or something. I don't know how they do it, by the way. I don't know how you get to know a guy that's going to blow something up and give him a fake bomb. That's amazing law enforcement to me, and that part I agree with. But what I find really weird about this story, to me, this is the minutia. I didn't see this on 5 of the news stations I watch. I might have missed it. It's possible. It should be the top of the news feed. Why was it not? Well, in one way, it will help feed the next crazy copycat guy, right? I'm wondering if the news didn't put it out headline news because it becomes a failure for their agenda. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a little bit, conspiracy theory kind of stuff, but I just think there's so many things at play in this story. It's really interesting. Glad they stopped it, right? But how are we going to stop the next guy from doing this? It's a challenge.
Well, I'll put on my tinfoil hat with you, and I think there is something to say there that why wasn't this more mainstream news? Maybe there's something else going on that was more important during August 17th that just kind of basically sidelined everything else. But it's interesting to. You would think that would be something very powerful that that the media would latch on. You're like, oh, it's going to happen again. Oklahoma targeted for the second time. You can see all the different types of headlines. So, yeah. But then I'm going to take my tinfoil hat off.
Okay, good. When I was doing my terrorism intelligence stuff back at the studios back in the day, there was a thing called the terrorist database. It was an MIT database. And MIT.
Oh, yeah. The terrorism, the GHD, the global.
Yeah, what a great database. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because it just dealt with facts. It just put facts in there. And then you could filter all the facts. You could search on different terms, and you could decide yourself what the data meant. There wasn't any opinions in that.
Yep.
Now, one thing I used to do research on was I would sort these things and say, okay, who's the number one group that commits terror? What's the number one damage? And back in the day, it was personal property was always way far ahead of the targets in all terrorism across all political affiliations. The news would have you believe it's government. The news would have you believe it's Antifa and all this kind of thing.
Yep.
Not true, right? The other thing I found out was that, for example, I was researching a class I was doing for firemen and trying to see if there were fires. Well, fire as a terrorist act, way down, low appearance. At the time, there were 0 appearances for attacks on water infrastructure, right, or public works kind of things. It was all about bombs and bullets and blowing up personal property. So the terrorist message against anti-U.S. and anti-government, it's all bullshit because they're still killing and attacking the personal property of the average citizen, right? So I find this interesting that we didn't get this story out on the domestic terrorism level. Like I said, at the time, the number one terrorist group that actually committed violent acts that hurt people were take a guess, the environmental people. Those were the number one terrorist group. And the FBI keeps saying, oh, no, it's the crazy right-wingers. No, it's not. So interesting story and a lot of moving parts involved in this and what motivates this. But I think the lesson learned is pay attention and, go out and find things on your own and make your own opinions about stuff.
I agree.
And that's it. That's what we got for Terror Tuesday. Tune in for...
there's not much more. I mean, it doesn't happen very often around here.
That's right. All right.
We'll
next show.
Friday.
Well, we're going to talk Workplace Wednesday next. Right. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for tuning in to SecurityGuideNews.com.